There's something I wish more people understood, especially when life feels like it's falling apart. The moments that seem like the end are often the moments that quietly become the beginning. It doesn't feel that way while you're living through them. When everything you've worked for starts to crumble, when people doubt you, when your plans fail, or when you question your own abilities, your instinct is to believe you've reached your limit. But what if that moment isn't your ending? What if it's the exact point where your real story begins? Most people see failure as a verdict. They think one bad decision, one rejection, one setback, or one loss defines who they are forever. But failure has never been a final destination. It is information, it is experience. It is a teacher that refuses to let you move forward until you've learned the lesson it came to deliver. Every obstacle forces you to become more resourceful, more disciplined, and more resilient than you were before. Without those difficult moments, you never develop the strength required for extraordinary achievements. The truth is, comfort rarely creates greatness. When everything is easy, there is little reason to grow. Growth happens when you're pushed beyond what feels possible. It's in those sleepless nights, those uncertain mornings, and those moments when you're wondering if you should quit that something powerful begins to change inside you. You stop relying on luck, approval, or perfect circumstances. Instead, you begin relying on your ability to adapt, to solve problems, and to keep moving even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Think about every major breakthrough in history. None of them came from people who had a smooth, predictable journey. They came from individuals who faced repeated disappointment but refused to accept that disappointment as their identity. They kept asking better questions. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" they asked, "What can I learn from this? How can I build something better?" That simple shift in perspective changes everything. It transforms pain into preparation and setbacks into stepping stones. There will be moments when nobody believes in your vision. Some people will tell you to be realistic. Others will quietly expect you to give up. That's because they're judging your future based on your current circumstances. But your current circumstances are temporary. They are not a prediction of what's possible. Every day you choose to keep going, you are writing a new chapter that nobody else can write for you. Never underestimate the power of one difficult season. It can teach you lessons that years of comfort never could. It can reveal strengths you didn't know you possessed, and force you to discover capabilities that only emerge under pressure. The person who walks out of the storm is never the same person who walked into it. So if today feels like your lowest point, don't mistake it for the end of your journey. It may be the moment that future you will one day look back on and say, "That was where everything truly began." One of the biggest traps you can fall into is believing that you need to feel completely ready before you take the first step. It sounds reasonable. You tell yourself you'll start when you have more experience, more money, more confidence, more time, or a better plan. But the problem is that perfect conditions almost never arrive. If you spend your life waiting for certainty, you'll eventually realize you've been waiting instead of living. The people who build remarkable things don't begin because every risk has disappeared. They begin because they understand that certainty is created through action, not before it. Every meaningful journey starts with unanswered questions. Every ambitious goal comes with moments of doubt. That's not a sign you're on the wrong path. It's often proof that you're stepping into something that actually matters. Think about how confidence really works. Most people believe confidence comes first, followed by action. In reality, it's usually the opposite. You take one small step, you learn something new, you solve one problem, and suddenly the next step feels possible. Then you repeat the process again and again. Confidence is built through evidence, and the only way to collect that evidence is by moving forward. There is another illusion that holds people back: the belief that successful people had everything figured out before they started. They didn't. They simply accepted that learning would happen along the way. They expected mistakes. They understood that progress isn't a straight line but a series of experiments. Some ideas succeed, others fail, but every attempt reveals something valuable that couldn't have been learned by standing still. You don't need a flawless blueprint for the next 10 years. You only need enough courage to take the next step. When you focus on the entire mountain, it feels impossible to climb. But when you focus on the next few feet in front of you, momentum begins to build. Small actions have a way of creating opportunities you could never have predicted from the starting point. There will always be voices telling you to wait, to play it safe, or to lower your ambitions. Sometimes those voices come from other people. Sometimes they come from your own mind. Fear has a convincing way of disguising itself as logic. It whispers that you're not prepared enough, talented enough, or qualified enough. But those whispers lose their power the moment you decide that progress matters more than perfection. Every great achievement begins as an imperfect first attempt. The first version won't be your best. The first conversation may feel awkward. The first project may not succeed. That's completely normal. What matters isn't getting everything right on day one. What matters is proving to yourself that you're willing to begin, because every improvement becomes possible only after you've started. Remember this whenever you're tempted to wait for the perfect moment. The future isn't built by those who hesitate until they feel ready. It belongs to those who take the first step while their hands are still shaking, because action will always outrun hesitation. As you begin taking action, something inevitable will happen. You'll make mistakes. A plan won't work the way you expected. An idea that seemed brilliant on paper may fall apart in the real world. People might criticize your decisions, question your judgment, or even tell you that you've proven you weren't capable in the first place. This is where many people stop. They don't quit because failure hurts. They quit because they confuse failure with identity. There is a profound difference between failing at something and being a failure. One describes an event, the other becomes a belief. And beliefs are far more dangerous than setbacks because they shape every decision that follows. If you convince yourself that one unsuccessful attempt defines who you are, you'll begin avoiding challenges altogether. You'll choose comfort over growth, certainty over possibility, and safety over innovation. Instead, start looking at failure the way an engineer looks at a test result. Every experiment produces information. Sometimes the outcome is exactly what you hoped for. Other times, it reveals what doesn't work. But in both cases, you've gained something valuable. You now know more than you did before. That knowledge becomes the foundation for the next attempt and the next, until eventually you arrive at a solution that could never have existed without the lessons learned along the way. The world often celebrates success while hiding the thousands of invisible failures that made it possible. Behind every breakthrough are countless revisions, unexpected obstacles, difficult decisions, and moments when giving up would have been the easier option. What separates exceptional people from everyone else isn't that they avoid failure, it's that they refuse to waste it. They extract every lesson they can, adjust their approach, and move forward with greater clarity. This requires emotional discipline. After a setback, your first reaction may be frustration or disappointment. That's normal, but don't stay there. Ask yourself better questions. What did this experience teach me? Which assumption turned out to be wrong? What can I improve before the next attempt? These questions shift your focus away from blame and toward progress. They transform obstacles into education. Remember that the market doesn't care about your intentions. Reality doesn't reward effort alone, it responds to adaptation. The faster you're willing to learn, the faster you're able to improve. Every mistake becomes a course correction, guiding you closer to a stronger idea, a better strategy, or a more resilient version of yourself. Don't be afraid of looking inexperienced. Everyone who has ever mastered anything was once a beginner making obvious mistakes. The difference is that they kept showing up long enough to become competent, then excellent, then extraordinary. Excellence isn't built in moments of perfection, it's forged through repeated refinement. So the next time life hands you a result you didn't want, don't let it become a label you carry. Treat it as feedback, refine your approach, and step forward again with greater wisdom. Your failures are only temporary reports. They are never the final definition of who you are. Once you begin seeing failure as feedback instead of a personal verdict, your attention naturally shifts toward a more important question. What can I build from here? That question has the power to change your life. Too many people spend years describing everything that's wrong with the world. They complain about the economy, technology, politics, their workplace, their circumstances, or the people around them. While those conversations may feel justified, they rarely create progress. The future has never been built by people who simply pointed out problems. It has always been built by those who became obsessed with creating solutions. Every challenge you encounter is an invitation to think differently. Instead of asking why something is broken, ask how it can be improved. Instead of waiting for someone else to fix it, ask what role you can play. This shift in mindset transforms you from a spectator into a creator. It moves you from reacting to the world into actively shaping it. The truth is, every remarkable innovation started with someone refusing to accept that the current way was the only way. They looked at limitations and saw possibilities. They questioned assumptions that everyone else took for granted. They weren't satisfied with saying, "That's just how things are." They believed things could be better, and then they committed themselves to making that belief a reality. This doesn't only apply to technology or business, it applies to your own life. If your habits are holding you back, build better ones. If your environment drains your energy, create a healthier one. If your skills aren't where you want them to be, dedicate yourself to learning. Every meaningful improvement begins with a decision to stop focusing on excuses and start investing in solutions. There will always be reasons to delay action. Resources may be limited, the path ahead may be uncertain, people may tell you your idea is unrealistic or impossible. But history has shown again and again that impossible is often just another word for something that hasn't been accomplished yet. Progress belongs to those who are willing to challenge what everyone else accepts as fixed. One of the greatest advantages you can develop is curiosity. Stay curious about how things work. Stay curious about how they can work better. Curiosity fuels innovation because it refuses to settle for easy answers. It keeps asking questions long after others have stopped looking. And every great breakthrough begins with someone asking a question that nobody else thought to ask. Your energy is one of your most valuable resources. You can spend it complaining about obstacles, or you can invest it in overcoming them. One path leaves you exactly where you are. The other slowly transforms your future. One decision, one improvement, and one courageous step at a time. The world doesn't need more people who can explain why something can't be done. It needs people who are willing to roll up their sleeves, embrace uncertainty, and begin creating what doesn't yet exist. The future is never handed to those who wait for better circumstances. It is built by those who decide that today's action is more powerful than tomorrow's excuse. As you continue building instead of complaining, you'll eventually face a challenge that is far more difficult than failure itself. Standing alone with an idea that nobody else seems to understand. This is the moment where many dreams quietly disappear, not because they were impossible, but because the person carrying them began to trust the opinions of others more than their own conviction. If you're trying to do something meaningful, don't expect immediate applause. People naturally measure your vision using what they already know. If your goal fits comfortably within their experience, they'll probably support it. But if your dream stretches beyond what they believe is possible, don't be surprised if they question it. Their skepticism isn't always a reflection of your potential. More often, it's a reflection of the limits they've placed on their own imagination. That doesn't mean you should ignore every piece of criticism. In fact, thoughtful criticism can be one of your greatest advantages. Listen carefully to facts, test your assumptions, and be willing to improve your ideas. But never confuse constructive feedback with permission to abandon your purpose. Learn from those who challenge your thinking, but don't let those who fear change decide the future you're trying to create. There will be days when progress is invisible. You'll be working harder than ever, yet it may seem as though nothing is happening. Those are the moments that test whether your motivation depends on external validation or internal belief. If you only move forward when people applaud you, your progress will always depend on someone else's approval. But when your commitment comes from within, you develop a resilience that no criticism can take away. Every worthwhile vision goes through a season where it appears unrealistic. Before something becomes obvious in hindsight, it often looks unreasonable in the present. That's because innovation asks people to believe in a future they cannot yet see. Most won't see it until it already exists. Your responsibility isn't to convince everyone immediately. Your responsibility is to keep building until your work speaks louder than your explanations ever could. Protecting your vision also means protecting your focus. The modern world is full of distractions, comparisons, and constant opinions. If you spend all your energy responding to every critic, you'll have very little left to create. Stay focused on the mission. Let your progress answer the doubts. Every hour spent improving your craft is worth more than an hour spent arguing with people who have no intention of understanding your journey. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to become better, not people who encourage you to think smaller. Seek those who value courage, curiosity, and relentless improvement. A single person who believes in growth can have more impact on your future than a crowd that celebrates mediocrity. Choose your influences carefully because the voices you listen to today shape the decisions you make tomorrow. There will always be moments when your vision feels lonely, uncertain, and misunderstood. Don't mistake that loneliness for a sign that you're on the wrong path. Some of the most extraordinary journeys begin with one person willing to believe in a future that nobody else can yet imagine. Stay committed long enough, keep building with unwavering purpose, And one day, the very vision that others doubted will become the proof that conviction is often the first step toward changing the world. If there's one idea I hope stays with you long after this message ends, it's this. Your future is not created all at once. It is created one decision at a time. We often imagine that life changes because of one dramatic breakthrough, one lucky opportunity, or one extraordinary event. While those moments do exist, they are usually the result of hundreds of small choices that came before them. The direction of your life is determined far more by what you repeatedly choose than by what occasionally happens to you. Right now, you are only one decision away from setting a completely different future in motion. That decision might be to begin the project you've been postponing. It might be to learn a new skill, end a habit that's holding you back, have a difficult conversation, or simply believe in yourself enough to try again. It may seem like a small action today, but never underestimate the ripple effect of consistent effort. One choice leads to another. One improvement creates momentum. Before long, you're living a life that once seemed impossible because you had the courage to make a different decision when it mattered most. The greatest obstacle isn't usually a lack of ability. It's hesitation. It's allowing fear to convince you that waiting is safer than acting. But waiting has a hidden cost. Every day you postpone a meaningful decision is another day your potential remains unrealized. Time moves forward whether you act or not. The question is whether you'll move forward with it. You don't need to know every answer before you begin. You don't need guarantees that everything will work out exactly as planned. Progress has never required perfect certainty. It has always required commitment. Once you commit to moving forward, you discover strengths you didn't know you possessed. You meet people you never would have met. You encounter opportunities that never would have appeared if you had stayed where you were. Action has a remarkable way of revealing paths that are invisible to those standing still. Remember everything we've talked about. Your lowest moments can become the beginning of transformation. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. Failure is information, not identity. The future belongs to those who choose to build instead of complain. Your vision deserves protection, even when others don't understand it. All of these ideas point toward the same truth. Your life changes the moment your decisions begin aligning with the future you want instead of the fears you have today. Imagine where you could be a year from now if you committed to becoming just 1% better every single day. Those small improvements would compound into something extraordinary. Success isn't built through occasional bursts of motivation. It's built through disciplined choices repeated when nobody is watching. Those quiet moments of consistency eventually become visible results that others call overnight success. So don't wait for the perfect opportunity, the perfect timing, or the perfect version of yourself. The life you've been imagining isn't waiting for another year, another month, or another Monday. It's waiting for one courageous decision made today, because the future doesn't belong to those who predict it, it belongs to those who decide to create it.